Hello, this is Greg Holcomb with VRMA, and I am here with Robert St. Genis with the Los Angeles Short-Term Rental Alliance, also known as LA-STRA. And we are going to be talking about speaking to city councils or planning commissions, different boards, governmental boards. And so, Robert, what information do you find important to share with city councils when you go in to speak?
Well, first off, before we go into a council meeting, whether it's a council member themselves or council staff, I like to try to find out something about either that council member or their staff. So doing, some quick research on their background, things that might help you know, okay, they're going to be interested in this, or they're going to be interested in that, or what's in their council district. Los Angeles is an incredibly diverse city in every sense of the word, and what's important to council members that cover mid-city South LA are different than those at the beach and different than those in downtown and going out. So you try to look and say, okay, what are the issues in that council district? For example, we have certain council members that are more tech savvy than others. So they're more prone to the whole idea of, apps and doing things that online and so forth, and others that they don't get it at all. So those are all kinds of things to try to look for and know. And then figure out what are your key talking points. What are your key issues? For us right now, it's all about, our slogan is reasonable regulation and responsible management. So we make a point in talking with any council member that, let's say, talks about party houses or things like that, that we're totally against that too, that those bad apples ruin our industry. And that, we want tough regulations on management. Now, sometimes, to me, they're ridiculous. They want to put into the legislation that, you have to have a fire extinguisher. Well, under California law, you have to have a fire extinguisher in every residence anyway, and the same thing with a CO2 monitor. But if you want to say it again, please, go right ahead. We've seen ordinances. The old Anaheim ordinance, I thought was great about explaining no parties. It didn't say no parties. I mean, it went and said no cocktail receptions, barbecues, business meetings. It went through every kind of form of party you could think of. That's probably a good idea. They limit the number of people you could have in a bedroom. There were odd numbers too. I do not know how you come 3 people in a bedroom, but whatever, they had a formula. Number of cars, the number of this, where your trash cans have to go. We're not against things like that. Make it so that your guests are not disorderly or disrupting the neighborhood, because that is one of the biggest arguments. This also usually makes city councils feel a lot more comfortable. It also makes city councils feel a lot more comfortable when you talk about being a trade organization that's going to be around in the long term. And the fact that we do things like have workshops for our members on how to be better hosts, on what type of insurance they're supposed to have, on how to file TOT, on any number of, we've had things on better host books, guest books, so that people know where the nearest urgent care is and ideal restaurants, farmers markets, etc. That plays well with city councils because they feel like you're part of the community and you're in it for the long haul. Then staying to your key issues, like the limit on the number of days, why that doesn't have any impact. What that does, I always say, a bad neighbor is a bad neighbor. And whether they're there for the weekend or there for 20 years, they bought the house, it's a bad neighbor. And the good news is with the short-term rental, I try to turn it into a spin. The good news with the short-term rental is if you have an ironclad agreement and you get a bad guest, you can kick them out in 30 minutes. Can't do that when somebody bought the house. So there's that end of it. So talking about the limitations in days, primary versus secondary homes, I go into the whole conversation, especially in somewhere like Los Angeles, that we have a tremendous population of people that are either bi-coastal or bi-national, that are only in LA part of the year, or tons of people in production that might spend 12 months this year in Los Angeles and 11 months of next year out of Los Angeles. So.
When preparing for, or when going into a council meeting or a planning commission meeting, the day of a hearing, how do you work with your members? I know you like to gather a group of people to go in. You have shirts. What do you do to kind of organize some of that at the meeting? Maybe even how they speak, if you have a lineup of speakers.
So we have t-shirts, we have bumper stickers, we have fans, and that has been largely in particular with Los Angeles, to counter our greatest opposition, which is specifically Unite Here 11. It's one union, and they come literally for the planning meeting after the draft ordinance. They brought 2 buses of people,
Oh, wow.
over 500 people
Wow.
on a Saturday. So you want to have something to combat that.
Mhm.
In terms of talking points, what I try to do is line up my speakers so they each have something unique in their story. So, whether they're an owner or a manager, those are different conversations.
Mhm.
Whether the person's doing it because they're disabled and they can't hold another job, or they're, I have an owner that took a home and using the vacation rental income to support her family, and she kept the home as her divorce settlement in lieu of child support and alimony. So that's a prime example. There's a lot of different, I have another member who great-great-grandfather built the house in 1925. They've been doing short-term rentals ever since, and it's passed from generation to generation. This was part of his retirement scheme, and now he's being told he can't retire.
Yeah.
So, those stories I think are all important, and likewise with property managers, having them explain the things they do to make sure there aren't problems. To just kind of go after, look at what the opposition's going to say, and have someone to address every single item,
Mhm.
along with reaffirming the positive things that come from having short-term rentals.
Sure. Great. And this is Robert St. Genis with the Los Angeles Short-Term Rental Alliance, and we were just discussing speaking to city councils, boards, commissions, and engaging your members at those meetings. Thank you.